In your experience with working with AT&T records, is it common or uncommon to have two warrants, one that relies on the content of the first in the same day?
It's not uncommon to see a small time period that produces results that would increase the desire or the need for a bigger time period of records. Seeing that entire process happen twice in the same day is extremely rare.
That was Cy Ray, a geolocation analyst who testified in today's hearing for the case against Bryan Kohberger. Kohberger is charged with the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. They were found stabbed to death in their off-campus home in November of 2022. Their names are Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, Kaylee Gonzalez, and Madison Mogan. Now, Ray delivered testimony about gaps in the data surrounding Kohberger's movements the night of the murders. And if you recall, Kohberger submitted an alibi claiming he was out driving the night of the stabbings. He maintains that he was enjoying stargazing on a long drive late at night when he was unable to sleep. Court TV anchor Vinnie Paulton has more for us on Bryan Kohberger's official alibi.
The alibi for the accused Idaho student's killer is that while 4 college students were murdered in the early morning hours, he was out for an innocent joyride. Defense attorneys called their client an avid runner and hiker, claiming he often took drives in the countryside late at night and in the early morning hours to enjoy the moon and stars. The accused killer's filing says that once school started, his hiking decreased and his drives increased. His attorneys plan to present cell phone data and photos of the night sky that show he was in the countryside on several occasions. The defense says their client's cell phone was south of Pullman, Washington, and west of Moscow, Idaho on November 13, 2022. So they say the car captured on video along the Moscow-Pullman highway near Floyd's cannabis shop could not be his. Floyd's cannabis shop is off State Route 270, the main route into Moscow from Pullman, Washington. His alibi does not confirm or deny that other surveillance videos of the white Elantra in Moscow is him. Here's the state's timeline of the accused killer's movements, outlined in their probable cause affidavit. Prosecutors say his phone pings in Pullman, Washington at 2:42 a.m. at his Washington State University campus apartment. His phone is on the move at 2:44 a.m. A few minutes later, his cell phone stops pinging. Investigators say that could be because the accused killer turned it off. And for the next 2 hours, investigators track his alleged movements using only surveillance video of what they say is his white Elantra. The state alleges that the accused killer drove from the WSU campus to Moscow by way of State Route 270, a claim they support with surveillance of a white Elantra seen heading in the direction of the highway at 2:53 a.m. and a photo of the same car near Floyd's cannabis shop further down the highway. The accused killer claims that it was not him. Cameras caught a white Elantra traveling through Moscow, first on streets near the crime scene, then on the victim's street from 3:39 a.m. to 4:20 a.m. Police say the accused killer turned his phone back on at about 4:48 a.m. near Blaine, Idaho, a rural community in the countryside about 10 to 15 minutes south of Moscow. According to the prosecution, from 4:50 a.m. to 5:26 a.m., his phone travels south towards Genesee, Idaho, going west toward Uniontown, Washington, a route that could lead toward Hawaii Park. The accused killer claims that park was his favorite place and that in the early morning hours of November 13th, he drove there. His alibi does not say when he got home, but the state says at 5:30 a.m. his cell phone uses service in Pullman, Washington. According to prosecutors, that's when he got home, not after an innocent drive, but after committing a quadruple murder.
And as we look ahead to one of the most highly anticipated murder trials, the trial date set to begin in this case in early March of next year, March 3rd, 2025. For now, let's bring back in our think tank to talk about this case. We've been talking about it for months, turning into years now. Still with us, Eklund Mercy, Kirk Nurmi, and Nima Rahmani. Nima, this alibi, if the Floyd's cannabis shop evidence that he was there, if that can be definitively debunked, does that equal reasonable doubt in this case?
I don't think so. There's plenty of evidence here. There's a single source DNA at the scene. There's apparently DMs with the victims that may show some sort of stalking, him actually showing up at their place of business. And even if the phone was turned off or an airplane mode and didn't hit the cell sites in the night of the murder, it was there the very next day and plenty of times before the murder. So I think there's enough. We have a fuzzy eyewitness account as well. And look, these types of pretrial motions are normal. The defense has to provide some notice of their alibi defense. The judge is going to let it in because it would be so prejudicial not to. This is the defendant's only real defense in the case and what might keep him off death row. And as far as the other pretrial matters that were heard today, the genetic genealogy and the gag order, it's really all sort of par for the course. I know everyone's frustrated, it's taken a long time, but we know that these pretrial motions are to tee up these issues for appeal if and when Kohberger is convicted and sentenced to death.
It can feel like it's taking a long time. And Kirk, we thought at one point it was going to be the summer of 2025. Now it's going to be spring or earlier, March 3rd, 2025. And you've got students who are going to have to take the stand. Students who are still in school, or if they're not in school, they're still going to have to travel back here to testify in probably the most horrific part of their life, their most horrific memory. Your thoughts on the timing of this trial?
You know, death penalty cases take a long time because they're going to be looked at 10 to 15 years down the road. If Mr. Kohberger is sentenced to death, which I think is likely in this case, I agree with Nima in terms of the likelihood of conviction as well as a sentence of death, that's going to be looked at for 10 to 15 years down the road. And one of the things that they're going to be looking at is the effectiveness of the counsel he had at the trial level. That means the counsel, whether they believe their client, whether they believe Mr. Kohberger's alibi, he was stargazing, what have you, because they really have no direct evidence to dispute it, they have to pursue all this cell phone data, all the DNA data with vigor because they have to move forward. They cannot just ignore what Mr. Kohberger says when it is his life at stake. So all these things have to be pursued, and that's what takes a long time, along with the mitigation case, right? Preparing that alongside of contesting guilt, you have to prepare for that mitigation case, which by its nature takes a long time.
Eklund, this stargazing alibi, do you think the defense went a little bit too far? I know the prosecution had demanded more specifics for their alibi, but they put specific places like that park, which the park on its website says that they close before dark and would not have let anyone in as far as a gate in that area. So if he's saying he was there in the wee hours of the morning, would make it pretty difficult. Do you think the defense may have given too much information that can then be debunked as well?
No, I think that they're trying to do the my cousin Vinny type of defense that, you know, it could be another Elantra. The issue is that they're really trying to force the prosecution's hand in proving their burden. And just the fact that he looks scary, and coupled with the fact that he was around that area, coupled with the fact that he just so happens to have a major in criminal defense, although it sounds like a slam dunk isn't enough for the murders. So I think juries now are way more sophisticated. We're going to have to see, is there a room in his home that has all four students with little, with little connections to them? Is there like a doll of one of the victims? Do we have a safe, do we have storage that has pictures and love letters? They're really going to have to lock in. So it's not going to be as simple. I don't think that it's going to be that simple. I think that juries now are way more sophisticated. And although this crime is terrible, they're going to have to provide more. Putting the burden on the defense is not going to work here.
And we will see how things unfold, and we can expect some more pretrial hearings many times over before we get to that March 5th trial date.